and death struggle for democracy and the very soul of the nation, as they all seem to be these days, despite very few differences in Republican and Democratic governance. But there is one thing that actually does make this election cycle a bit different. Conservatives have been lurching towards fascism for years, with the Democrats not far behind, though historically they've been a little more subtle about it. But recently, the American right has dropped—
I can agree to that. Like back in the Bush days, mainly in the Bush Senior and Bush Junior days, we've been kind of moving towards that fascism. I can agree to that.
a hot new single, Project 2025. If you thought they were bad before, just wait till you get a load of this.
I'm weak. Like they was real bad Monday. Oh, wait till you catch them now.
In today's episode, we're taking a look at the new conservative plan to seize total control, and what it means for the future of the country. Brace yourself. Okay, Project 2025. What is it?
Yep, please.
Spearheaded by the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025 is a massive 920-page conservative manifesto detailing how they intend to give the president vastly more power, destroy bureaucracy, root out woke propaganda, appoint vetted far-right freedom fighters at every level of government.
Okay, like yeah. Let's take that back a bit. Alright, let's go.
Manifesto detailing how they intend to give the president vastly more power, destroy bureaucracy, root out woke propaganda, appoint vetted far-right freedom fighters at every level of government, and have it all ready to implement the day the next conservative president is elected.
Oh, wow.
Which they assume will be 2025, hence the name. Despite Trump obviously being the favorite, the plan is not dependent on any particular candidate winning, but can be implemented with any figurehead at the reins, who will become essentially completely unaccountable.
So hold on. So now, for the y'all people who have Trump derangement syndrome, this is not a hit on Trump pretty much saying that, yeah, no, they're gonna do this as long as a conservative figurehead in office. They're gonna do it regardless.
God Emperor was supposed to be a joke, but here we are. You may have seen this book floating around online, The Mandate for Leadership. This is what most people assume Project 2025 to be, but this is actually just one part of a much larger conservative master plan. Project 2025 has 4 core pillars. First, the policy, as outlined in the 920-page document.
Damn.
This is where all the heinous and frankly disturbing policy proposals live, and don't worry, we'll look at some of those in a bit. 2, the personnel database, which has been described as the conservative LinkedIn, as if LinkedIn wasn't cringe enough already. This will be a repository for conservative resumes from people across all sectors and from all walks of life, to be selected as needed to staff positions in every level of government, at both the federal and state level. 3, training. They've got a new online institute, basically PragerU, but for people who like to wear poorly tailored suits and fantasize about rolling back environmental regulations. This training program will create willing and able soldiers to serve on the front lines in the war on the woke cabal of the deep state. And finally, 4, the 180-day playbook, a step-by-step guide for the new conservative emperor to systematically implement the policies listed in the manifesto. Think IKEA assembly instructions, but for fascism.
I'm weak. They say, yeah, so this is how you assemble a fascist government. You just gotta go ahead and fuck the judicial system up. You gotta go ahead and put the police against the people. Yeah, this is how you get it together.
These 4 pillars are the key components of the project, and taken together, they offer a pretty comprehensive vision for the dystopian future the right hopes to usher in. It's all pretty alarming. But where exactly does this come from?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some of the names behind the project. If you flip through the first pages of the PDF, because, let's be honest, we're not about to give the Heritage Foundation $35, you'll find a list of far-right think tanks, advisory groups, and business and government figures who contributed to the project. Some of the names include Donald Devine, once called by the Washington Post Reagan's terrible swift sword of the civil service, for his eagerness to slash spending and fire people. Stephen Moore, the well-known conservative author and right-wing economist, with such credentials as working for the very legitimate FreedomWorks and serving as a Fox News contributor.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And Peter Navarro, who is notable for being one of just 3 people who worked with Trump for the duration of his term without being fired.
Okay, so strong conservative figureheads are pretty much trying to put their own policy in place. Huh. That's kind of crazy. It's kind of like the World Forum a little bit, but it's like their play against the World Forum. It's a little weird.
He's also a little bit obsessed with China, having written 3 truly awful books on the subject: The Coming China Wars, Death by China, and Crouching Tiger. The manifesto.
Okay, this guy does not like China. Obviously. He sees China as an ultimate threat, as most conservatives sees China as an ultimate threat. Like, what's his name? The Mug Club guy. Steven Crowder. Yes, Mr. Crowder.
Manifesto credits 35 total authors,
Crowder,
as well as dozens of contributors, all with their credentials listed. It's about what you'd expect. A lot of people from the Heritage Foundation, some military goons, a smattering of former Trump officials, extremist economists, and a considerable number of people who have worked in climate, energy, immigration, and legal positions under conservative governments. What you won't see a lot of in the acknowledgments is religious credentials, which you'd think would be important given how much the document leans on Christian language. This should be your first indication that maybe the people who loudly proclaim their faith aren't really all that Christian, and they're just using it to win brownie points among their religious conservative audience. There's actually a lot of overlap here with the topic of our last video on Christian nationalism.
Ooh.
These people use religious rhetoric, but a little bit of digging reveals that the God they pray to is not the God of the Bible, but a mythologized vision of America itself. Much like fascists throughout history have relied on a glorious false past to act as a North Star to guide them into the Promised Land, so too have American fascists wrapped themselves in comforting mythology, proving that what they are doing is not only just, but divinely inspired.
What?
When you have a higher power on your side, it's pretty easy to justify horrific...
So what, the government is gonna go on dominance and just be like, yeah, we did this out of divine providence. Yeah, this was divine... interference. Like, we had to do this. We had to take y'all rights away. Man, God wanted it. It's like, wait, really? Yeah, they're gonna try to sell us anything this year. I really believe it.
Horrific acts. Okay, with the brains behind the project out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What exactly do these people want? What's their end goal? Well, there are 4 main priorities. In their words, they want to 1. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. 2. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. 3. Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats.
Well, I'm gonna be real with you. That sounds like a great idea. I'm just saying, it sounds like a great idea. Like, hold on. Let's take it back a little bit. Maybe I missed something here. But now that I'm thinking about it, okay, restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Well, but that doesn't sound bad at all. I'm in favor of it. Hey, I'm all for it. Perfect. All right.
Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. 2. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people.
Hold on. Well, but they cooking. They cooking right now. Hold on.
3. Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats.
I like where this is going. I actually like where this is going. It sounds really good. But I'm pretty sure it has a dark end too, though, because, the first promises always sound good, but then as you get further down, something seems a little bit more authoritative. I'm kind of waiting for it, though.
And 4. Secure our God-given individual rights to live freely. What our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. Okay, you can probably already see where some of this is going, but let's start with the boring stuff. The nuts and bolts of manipulating the federal government to serve the right. A lot of this project centers around gutting what's called the administrative state. This is stuff like the EPA.
Some guys actually need to be gutted out. I kind of got to admit that. The EPA has done nothing but hid inventions that have helped further our society. They don't even really protect the environment. And then you already know some of these other agencies that he described ain't really do much for us either. Be real. Maybe not FEMA, but the FBI and the other one, yeah, we can do without those. Like, we can get them up out of here. Yeah, the EPA and the FBI, we don't need those.
The humdrum logistical stuff that nonetheless often plays an important role. Or sometimes not. Looking at you, DHS. There's a lot of this stuff, so much so that it's often called the fourth branch of government, and it deals with the day-to-day operations of the country, everything from transportation to environmental regulations, food and water safety, and so on. Most of these agencies are created when a law is passed that makes people think, there really should be a group of people responsible for making sure food is safe for consumption, or whatever. Yeah. The government slaps together...
I ain't gonna lie, we do not got that. Instead, we got lobbyists pretty much buying out the food industry, pretty much telling them, oh, well, you can add whatever preservatives in there to make your food last longer so you can sell it later. But here's the downside, you're just gonna be poisoning the American people. You know, that's all.
They're an elite team of nerds, that is to say, subject matter experts, people who actually know what they're talking about, and there you go, you've got the FDA. The FDA then takes over the task of enforcing whatever regulations they come up with in administrative courts.
Yeah, we need to take out the FDA too, I ain't gonna lie. They's not doing their job. The Food and Drug Administration, bro, how y'all let 10,000 chemicals that other countries banned into our food? And y'all supposed to be the Food and Drug Administration. Like, y'all cap right now. And y'all lobbied. So there's some corruption going on in there. So yeah, we can go ahead and dismantle that one too.
But this is all really boring. All you need to know is that a lot fewer people die because the FDA exists, and we have fewer polluted rivers and extinct species because the EPA exists. Conservatives don't really like rules in general, especially rules that protect the environment or...
I'm gonna be real with you, like, bro, citizens do the EPA's job, like, better than the EPA does. But let's keep it real. If there's anybody tying themselves to trees, making sure you don't pollute a river, man, it's the hippies.
Poor people, so these agencies need to go. It's not good enough that the president can appoint the heads of these admin agencies. For example, Trump appointing a fossil fuel executive to head the EPA. No, conservatives want complete power over everyone in these agencies. Because right now, the subject matter experts at, say, the EPA are not beholden to politics. They just come to work and try to figure out how to protect snails or something.
Literally.
Much of the argument here centers around whether these agencies are constitutional. Conservatives like to...
Like, I don't know. If you can give me a better, like, reason that actually helps the American people, than, you know, the EPA, I'm just saying, like, give me something better that they do. Because it kind of sounds like we just giving them money just to run around in forests and national forests just to, what, do surveys and shit? Like, we didn't pay them for no reason. And then they're one of the main people that got some of the best inventions taken off because it was dangerous for the environment. Like, come on now. I don't trust EPA for real.
The claim that since the Constitution didn't explicitly say federal agencies like these were part of their master plan, they're government overreach and should be dismantled. Historically, federal courts have disagreed with this assessment, so until now, we can rest assured that our milk has been pasteurized and our water isn't contaminated with lead. But here's the thing with the whole constitutionality argument. Who cares? Most countries around the world scrap their constitutions entirely when the people decide they're no longer relevant or they need to be overhauled. Only the United States has this weird reverence for the Constitution and the Founding Fathers.
Okay.
Part of that is due to the relatively short history of the country. The US has only really existed for a couple hundred years. When you look around the world and see some of your peer nations have a couple thousand years of history, you might feel the need to mythologize your past just a little bit.
Yeah, on God, like Russia, bro, 1,000 years. China, oh yeah, like, we don't even want to get into that. Japan, oh man, yeah, they got some history. They've been around a lot longer than we have.
To make your nation seem special, the Founding Fathers have been elevated to godlike status, especially among conservatives. But the truth is, they were a bunch of
That is true, though. You're right. Because God tier statuses, we do kind of look up to these guys as dudes who wrote the best, you know, document ever written. But if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, well, Benjamin Franklin was a plagiarizer. And then we got, you know, the slavery whole thing going in. Most of them were slave masters. You know, you got to get into that thing as well. You know, if that really matters that much to you.
Frat boys. Okay, not all of them. Ben Franklin was 70 and Washington was 44. But a lot of them, dear viewer, are younger than you are right now. Alexander Hamilton, the one with the annoying fan club, he was 21. Yep. And he wasn't even the youngest. Anyway, the point is, when you look at his...
I'm weak. So you're pretty much saying America was started by a bunch of reckless young boys. Young men, pretty much. It was pretty much like a frat party. They only had two old leaders, which was Washington and Benjamin. The man with the money, both men had extreme amounts of money. One pretty much put his money into war and making America a country, and the other one put his money into inventions.
Historical events without the rose tint of mythology, you see a bunch of normal people just kind of making it up as they go along. It's normal that things change over the centuries.
Freestyling
What's
history?
considered constitutional should reflect the values and norms of the time. That little tangent aside, let's get back to the goals of Project 2025. We talked about the boring stuff, wanting to gut the administrative state, but what else is in there? It's 920 pages after all, they've got to have some other ideas.
You know what's funny? I'm pretty sure Trump kind of does believe in this agenda too, because what do you say, drain the swamp? So it kind of sounds like the same ideal. Draining the swamp, gutting the administration, like, same thing.
Well, a lot of it is what you might expect. As Trump stated on numerous occasions, they want to kick the cultural Marxists out of the Department of Education, demolish the deep state, and combat woke ideology at all levels of government. They plan to do this by making extensive use of Schedule F, a piece of legislation established at the federal level by Trump, which allows the president to fire federal government officials at will, presumably for not sufficiently bending the knee. The project calls for an executive branch with essentially unchecked power.
Ah, so it would be like Emperor Trump damn near. Okay. So this is where y'all be afraid of when y'all say, oh, when you get in there, he's going to be a dictator. He's pretty much going to make everybody bend the knee and do what he say. Yeah, well, I ain't gonna lie. It's kind of seeming like a little bit valid right now. You know, admittably, which I don't like to admit, but it's seeming a little bit valid right now. If Trump get in there, he might be able to run some dictator shit. If they're able to, run this agenda through.
Making the president basically unaccountable to Congress. They want to dismantle the liberal system to build one more favorable to conservatives. That means scrapping environmental protections, moving away from globalism, punishing corporations for DEI language, which is funny because it sounds like they actually think these corporations genuinely believe their DEI statements. They want to escalate tensions with China by ending economic engagement entirely, crack down on immigration, criminalize LGBT expression. They claim that any talk of gender identity, and so on is pornography and should be banned, and has no First
Whoa. Okay, that's going a little too far, guys. Okay, yeah, I was feeling it a little bit, but yeah, I went a little too far. Like, yeah, let's take it back a little bit. God damn. Yeah, they was going in.
Congress. They want to dismantle the liberal system to build one more favorable to conservatives.
Yeah.
That means scrap.
Now, I could kind of see that because, well, look how extreme it is to, look how the government is extremely leaning towards the liberal side. Now, the Republicans or the conservatives are now getting extreme themselves. They're like, okay, well, now we're going to over-dominantly make it conservative. Since y'all was able to pull that off, now we're going to try to run our shit too. It's like, all right.
Scrapping environmental protections, moving away from globalism, punishing corporations for DEI language, which is funny because it sounds like they actually think these corporations genuinely believe their DEI statements. They want to escalate tensions with China by ending economic engagement entirely, crack down on immigration, criminal.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I don't know. We got to pay them back first before we just cut them off. Like, I don't think China's going to let us run off on the bill, without fighting.
LGBT expression. They claim that any talk of gender identity, and so on is pornography and should be banned, and has no First Amendment protections. They want to scrap labor discrimination.
See, that's where I disagree, because the First Amendment, regardless of what y'all think, is supposed to protect that. Freedom of religion, freedom to express yourself, freedom of speech, supposed to be able to do that. So they'd be going against the Constitution that they just love, or the amendments that they just love so much that their founding fathers put in place. So it is kind of contradictory.
Policies, quote, maintain a biblically based, social science reinforced definition of family, meaning scrap protections for same-sex marriage, and plan to, quote, secure our God-given individual rights to... In that vein, to touch very briefly on their views on pornography, if you read the text, they basically just mean any discussion of gender, abortion, or any identity other than straight and cisgender. They want all instances of this kind of language stripped from society. While it's a little cliche to compare the conservatives to Nazis...
Okay, so it's extreme conservatism. They're like, all right. We don't want to do a new age conservatism. We want to take it back to the 1960s in this bitch. Well, all right, we're going back. They want to take us back to extreme conservative. 1960 conservatism in the modern day, man. Yeah, that's not going to end too well.